What's up, guys? I had been trying to figure out how I'm actually going to record this video for a while. I've got a bunch of notes here on things about heavy metal detox, and I was just like, dude, I don't even know what to do. I've got this information, and what am I going to do? Just throw it on the counter and stare at it underneath the light? And I didn't really want to do that. I didn't really want to get out the marker board and stare at that. I didn't want to do the blurry reveal like I've seen maybe Thomas DeLauer do. So I'm just gonna throw up this picture here. This is actually somebody locally here in Colorado makes rings like this, and I'm sure there's people actually all over the place that'll make rings out of the $25 quarters. $25 quarters? No, 25-cent quarters with the states on them. Anyways, this one was way too small for me, but I did end up taking some pretty cool pics with it. And so I thought, what the heck, this will be the background for this video. It's metal anyways, right? So heavy metal detox, from everything I've learned from all the people that I listen to and the teachings and my teachers and my professors and the naturopaths that I talk to, you want to do heavy metal detox last. Because heavy metals are probably the most damaging for the most part of any of the things that get trapped in our system, which is maybe not entirely 100%. You know, there's things out there that'll damage you no matter what, you know, that's not heavy metal. There's toxins, there's chemicals. It's not a one and done deal is what I'm saying. It's definitely not like it's the worst, but they're a worst category maybe, and maybe hardest to remove. So the main thing is you want to get all the other pathways moving for you to remove the heavy metals and to not allow them to go into places they shouldn't, such as your brain for one. And the way that you do that is you got to make sure you have the right binders. So I'm going to talk about binders. I'm going to talk about things that can help prevention. I'm going to talk about things that are signs that you probably have issues with heavy metal detox. I'm going to talk about, the when, like I've already been suggesting. And I'm going to talk about how to minimize your exposure. I'm going to talk about what it actually means to do a heavy metal detox. I'm going to talk about why we need to do a heavy metal detox. So with all that said, I'm going to start out talking about why do we need to do heavy metal detox. So in our world today, there is more pollutants in our air that we breathe, more pollutants in our food that we eat than there at any other time in known human history, basically. So that's that. Should I say much more? I know I've watched Dr. John Bergman videos where Dr. John Bergman actually talked about going camping when he was younger, and you could just drink water from the stream. And I just was in awe of that. I was like, holy cow, you could literally actually do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. But wow, how much has our world changed? So when, I think, is probably the next question to cover about when should you heavy metal detox. And as I already said, you want to do it last. You want to make sure your colon is clear and that you're having regular 3 bowel movements per day, and that you are drinking enough proper water. You don't want to have sources of water that are loaded with a lot of dissolved solids. You definitely don't want to drink tap water. Distilled is probably the best. There's other types of waters out there that may be better. Like there's stuff out there that's called like structured water, which I don't know a ton about just yet, but it sounds interesting. And it may just be hooey. I don't know. But it sounds interesting, and I'm probably going to look more into that structured water business. I'm not a big fan of alkaline water because, I mean, there's a time and a place for alkaline water, but it's only going to be for those people who are overly acidic, because that's just basically how it is, in my opinion. Definitely not with food. Do not consume alkaline water with a full stomach, because you're going to neutralize your acids in your stomach and you're not going to be able to digest those. But anyways, you want to make sure you have as many pathways clear to get the heavy metals out of your body as soon as they come loose from your tissues, basically. So how do you do these heavy metal detoxes? That is actually a very long list. There is a lot of things out there that can help to remove heavy metals, and there's no one thing, I think, that's going to take care of every single heavy metal. There's a lot of good ones out there, and herbs are amazing at this for many different reasons. There's certain binders that work great for the ones that are kind of free-flowing in your system and the ones that are easy to remove, and those binders would work really good. Those binders would be like bentonite clay, spirulina, activated charcoal. And the thing about that is there's so many other things that could actually sweep those out of your system, and ones that specialize in removing different types of metals from your system. So for a while, I experienced that spirulina seemed to just work better for removing heavy metals from my system, but that's probably because of the specific type of metals that were in my body. And I don't have a clear breakdown on all the different ones that all these binders are actually best at, but you can look into that, or I could check out, see if I can find a nice little graphic that I could put up on the screen. Hopefully I found that, and I'll put it in here or so. So here's the deal. We also have foods that are loaded with reduced iron, enriched iron, all these different types of irons that are in grains and breads, and those are horrible because those ones are going to cause oxidative stress, and they're going to cause a lot of damage in your body. Because I remember as a kid, we would take cornflakes, throw them in a bag, crush them up, and grab a magnet, and you could literally pull the magnet across the bag. And you could probably still do this today with cornflakes because they're still enriched with iron. Rub it across the bag, and the magnet will pull just straight up iron flakes right into the magnet. And that stuff, it's going to wreak havoc on our system, because that's not the way we were made to digest iron. Most naturopaths are going to say you need to consume the metals or minerals when they're plant-based. And from my understanding, that yes, that's a great benefit, because it's in a form and a variety that can really take up your food, and you can take it up in your food, and you can digest it easier and assimilate it easier. I have used ionic minerals, and it seems to me that those get very well absorbed for me. I've never had an issue with that. Minerals are synergistic with other minerals and are probably better off if you get them together. The other thing that I've learned is humic and fulvic acids can actually really benefit your body's absorption abilities. So I wore this copper bracelet, and copper and zinc have a synergistic relationship that balance each other out. So if you have copper, if you're wearing copper and you notice that you get green skin underneath that copper, that's a sign that you probably need more zinc. Or it's a sign that you could definitely benefit from fulvic acid or humic acid or Shilajit. And I've made videos about all of those and their many benefits. And that is something that I highly suggest everybody do. So, there's a lot of products out there that can really help with this. Some of them are herbs, some of them are different fatty acids, some of them are homeopathics, and some of them are minerals too, and some of them are herbs. So on that list, our alpha lipoic acid is one that I've used a lot lately, and that is pretty amazing because it's actually something that is, in general, every cell of our body already has and needs, so it can help remove those things faster. And so there's zeolites, Liquid so zeolites, I usually just bought a liquid zeolite from the zeolite company, and I saw good benefits with that. After a while, I noticed that there was an increase in ringing in my ears, and that's actually a very common sign that you need to do a heavy metal detox, because it most likely indicates a lot of it is floating around in your system. And once the zeolite can pull that out of your tissues, it doesn't always bind very well to it, so it just could keep circulating until it goes back into your tissues, which isn't good. You want to make sure you find something to bind it to, and that's why I actually get a liquid zeolite that has fulvic acid as well. But that's also why I try and consistently take like a Shilajit when I'm doing the liquid zeolite detox, which I actually just restarted again recently. There was a little while I took a break for maybe 1 or 2 months to focus on taking more binders on a regular basis, which I don't personally take binders like every single day, such as activated charcoal, because those could bind to, you know, beneficial microflora in my digestive tract that I didn't want it to bind to. I mean, I suppose there's some debate out there that some people say that activated charcoal is only going to bind to negative things, and I don't know how that could actually be true. I definitely will research that more and look into it more, but, you know, not so sure. So some of those herbs out there, let's see, like Rhodiola would be really good. Something that I've got a playlist about is like coffee enemas that could actually really help reduce high iron levels in men and women for that matter. And typically women don't have really high iron levels if they're still having their menstrual cycles and regular periods. But if they don't, if they're using any of those things that really change their biology in that way, then they could start to build up really high iron levels. And that could cause oxidative stress. I did talk about deep breathing. Deep breathing is a fantastic thing that can help clear junk out of your system, and I definitely have experienced how deep breathing has helped me eliminate some of those things that are floating around in my system, because I can significantly notice that if the ringing in my ears gets louder after a detox, that if I spend time doing deep breathing, it can definitely reduce those altogether. Another cool thing, naturally, mushrooms break down the greater world around us, and especially when it comes to biological mess things, like I don't really know how to say it. Paul Stamets talks about this, how he used mycelium, threw it all over a big pile of garbage and rubbish, and came back like a year later. It was some experiment maybe, and came back a year later, and you know, you see this mound of stuff that used to be trash and garbage and junk, and it's just brimming with life, and it's got new plants growing on it, and there's, you know, insects, and mushrooms just clear a way for additional health basically. And I think mushrooms definitely have the capability to bind to certain metals that are in your system. And Paul Stamets has a website, which I'll put in the description, that's all about research for mushrooms. And he's largely the guy behind a lot of the knowledge we have about mushrooms today. The leading edge, you know. So I would definitely suggest you guys minimize your exposure to the stuff in the air. How you can do that, there's all these different masks that are popping up in ads on Facebook, on Instagram, and wherever. If you just do a little research for I think it's called like PS 2.5 masks, or maybe it's PN. Man, anyways, just search for activated charcoal masks or charcoal masks, and those are going to be, some of them are washable and reusable, and other ones have micron filtering just naturally in the fibers, you could look up any of those, and you could actually get on eBay. That's what I would really suggest, because you can have them shipped directly to you from China for like $2.40 or less, or a little bit more depending on what style you wanted to choose. I would definitely suggest having houseplants as well, just to increase the oxygen in your home. Salt lamps, I really love those. They give off negative ions on a regular basis that can help remove pollutants from your air as well. Just did a review on True HEPA filters because I saw so many advertisements for the Molecule, and the Molecule cost like $1,000, and I saw this review of this guy who did testing for the air quality before and after the Molecule, and it worked like only 67% pure air. And in some cases, I think he said that if you did nothing, you would have cleaner air because the Molecule actually stirred up things in the air. But anyways, True HEPA filters are probably the best choice out there because they can filter out probably close to 99% or better of the pollutants in your air. Anyways, you can check out my video on that. One of the best things you can do for removing heavy metals from your system is saunas, sauna detoxes. You don't want to just stand in the shower. You can't just crank on the heat in the shower. And that's because your shower is contaminated. You have contaminated water that's probably got large amounts of calcium deposits. It's probably got large amounts of fluoride, and chlorine and chloramines and all these other things that aren't going to be beneficial. Personally, I don't eat fortified foods. I try and make sure I'm taking my nutrients from supplements, from natural sources, from things that have minimal ingredients, basically. Now, I'm not perfect, and I'm still human, and if it's date night and the wife says, I want pizza, we get pizza. Although, lately, we haven't really done that because just where I'm at, health speaking, I have tried to minimize any carb intake, especially after I wasn't so good after the holidays this past season. It's not like I really flew off the wagon or anything. I just indulged a little bit more than I would have liked to because of how I suffered afterwards, basically, right? So anyways, and let's go back to why heavy metal detox, right? Heavy metals could cause headaches. They could cause memory issues. They can definitely disrupt your nervous system. I saw a study that indicated it may actually be your urine tests that become high in metal may be an indicator in bipolar disorder. Other things that are very normal would be the ringing in the ears, like I already said, poor taste, poor smell. And if you've never done one, those would be the things I suggest. So the zeolite, they say, is safe for all to do. So if you actually haven't done all these other things and you think you really should do a heavy metal detox first, then it's possible. Some of the zeolites would be fine for that. But even me, even with all my experience in detoxing, I really still noticed that the zeolites got things out of my tissues, but then it was still floating around in my system because I had various times where I had pretty loud ringing in my ears. But like I said, if you take different binders, then you could totally see that reduce, basically. So anyways, guys, I think that's about everything I'm going to cover in the heavy metal detox. Thanks for watching. Thanks for leaving comments and questions and other suggestions for where I could take this channel with content. And yeah, thanks, guys.